Thank you so much. That's pretty awesome. Yo, I got to tell you, like, really, really excited to be here with you all. I'm Marcus. How's it going? When I walked into the building, I just felt like full, just considering this is a space for us. So we should be like turned up all the way here, for sure. So I don't have a ton of time, so let me jump right into this. And I want to talk to you about a very simple idea, and that idea is perspective. Because I'm a firm believer that things aren't the way they are the way that we are. That is, the world isn't objective, it's subjective. The world isn't fixed. It is translating based upon the way that we see the world. And here's an idea that I think might change your perspective. It's that there's no external force more influential in human behavior than culture, full stop. Now, you hear that and go, yeah, of course I know that, of course. Of course. Those in the marketing world always say, let's get our ideas out into culture. Even thought leaders go, we need to move at the speed of culture. Yeah, exactly. Business leaders go, we need to be informed by what's going on in culture. I mean, even Jay-Z said, I do this for my culture. HR folks go, we got a foosball table in the kitchen. We have a great culture here. Culture. But if you ask 5 people to define culture, you get 55 different answers, and that's a problem. Because if we can't define things concretely, how do we ever fully harness its power? If we don't have a good Rosetta Stone to describe a thing, how do we ever leverage this thing that is so unbelievably influential? And the truth is, we just don't have good language. So we need better language to talk about culture so that we might be able to engage with it in a meaningful way. Because with better language leads to better operationalizing. Which begs the question then, what the heck is culture? Now, you heard some definitions before, which were great, but I look at it through a sociological lens. This gentleman's name is Emil Durkheim. He's one of the founding fathers of sociology. He talks about culture this way, that culture is a system of conventions and expectations that demarcate who we are and govern what people like us do. It's a system that kind of carves out our personhood in the dynamic world in which we cohabit with everyone else, and as a result, we behave accordingly. It's anchored in our identity, who we are, in all of its complexity, and all its contradiction, and all its nuances, our identity. And our identity is complex. For instance, I'm a professor, that's a part of my identity. That's an individual referent, a part of my identity. I'm in a fraternity, Phi Beta Sigma. That is a part of my identity. It's a group referent. I'm a father of 2 little girls, Georgia and Ivy. That's an abstract referent. But these are the ways by which I self-identify, and as a result, I see the world similarly. Now, we look at that and go, yeah, that makes all the sense in the world. But here's the truth. We suck at the way we describe people because we put people in nice, neat little boxes, not because it's real, but because it's easy. Not because it's accurate, but because it's fluid. For instance, meet my friend Deborah. Deborah drives a minivan. Does Deborah have kids? Yeah, do her kids play a sport? What sport? And just for giggles, where does Deborah live? One data point about Deborah, you map out her entire life. Mike has a mohawk. What kind of music does Mike listen to? What kind of clothes does he wear? Yeah, what color is his skin? One data point. One data point. It's not because it's real, but because it's easy. Not because it's accurate, but because it's fluid. In fact, we actually have an instrument to help us do this called demographics. Age, race, gender, household income, geography. These are the means by which we describe people because it's easy. Sure, your age is your age. Your race is your race. Your gender, we know it to be fluid, but let's just say it is what it is. And while those things may be statistically accurate, they don't accurately describe who we are. For instance, take my demographics. I'm 45 years old. I'm black. I'm from Detroit. Holla. Went to public school. What up, Doe? In the building. Went to public schools my entire life. If a marketer saw that on their brief, they go, oh! He must buy those things, hang out with those people, listen to this kind of music, eat that kind of food because that's how people like them are. And that sounds racist AF for me to say out loud, but you just did that with Deborah and with Mike. It's what we do. While yes, I am 45, yes, I am black, I am from Detroit, I did go to public schools my entire life, I also grew up playing jazz as a kid, and I swam competitively. And I grew up loving the Monkees as much as I love the Tribe Called Quest and the Digital Underground. Demographics will never get close to that because these things shape the way I see the world and therefore how I behave in the world. And it's because of these shortcut heuristics that we use to describe people that we get to inaccurate ways by which we engage them. For instance, Big Pen had the bright idea that they were going to make pens for women. Because for some reason, women have been using men pens all these years. Your dainty little hands picking up those men pens. Oh, the horror, the tragedy. And of course, they're pink and frilly just for your frilly little selves. And you hear that and go, what in the world are these people thinking? But this is what we do. We put people in boxes, not because it's real, but because it's easy. And the interesting part about this is that in the 19th century, boys wore pink and girls wore blue. See, these are constructs that we socially negotiate and construct, and therefore abide by them, not because they're real, but because they're fluid. Demographics never get anywhere close to this. And when I talk to leaders about this, they go, yeah, totally, absolutely, yes, 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 demographics suck. Now, how do we get those Gen Zs? I go, fam, that's a demographic. And we have a box for Gen Zs. Just like we have a box for millennials and a box for boomers. No one cares about Gen Xers. Nobody cares about us at all. No boxes for us. But think about this. 10 years ago, we were obsessed with millennials. Got to get those millennials. And they're a box that we have for millennials. They're lazy, narcissistic, self-entitled. They want to be an intern one day, CEO the next day. I didn't make that up. Actually, that's what Google told me. Google said millennials are lazy, stupid, the worst, killing the napkin industry. I don't even know what that means or how one does that, but apparently millennials are doing that very thing. I mean, it's ridiculous. You mean to tell me everybody within a 20-year gap, everybody 28 to 40 are all the same? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. But that's what we do. Not because it's easy, but because it's fluid. Not because it's accurate, but because it's simple. And as a result, we find ourselves making some really terrible mistakes. This is why the Pew Research Center actually stopped using generationalism as a way to describe people, because it doesn't make any sense. And the best part about it is that every generation talks junk about the generation after them. Every single one. Oh, when I was your age, I had to walk to school with no shoes on, 50 miles both ways in the snow. You kids got it so easy these days. I do the same thing with my kids. We went on vacation this summer. My eldest, Georgia, walks in the Airbnb and goes, oh, the Wi-Fi is so slow. So slow. Little girl, when I was your age, I didn't even have Wi-Fi. You kids these days. And we do it all the time. I hear old heads, I'm not an old head, but the older heads, they go, man, y'all artists be bugging. Y'all don't know how to rap. Look at the clothes you wear. Y'all ridiculous. And I go, oh, really, fam? Really? Really? What are we talking about here? These are labels that we affix to people, not because they're real, but because they're easy. Not because they're accurate, but because they're fluid. And just because you put a label on the thing, it doesn't make it real. Labels are for us. They're not for people. Now, here's why that's important for us. I mean, this is a business conference that we're here. Here's why this is important for us. Because of who we are, our identity, we see the world a certain way. We have a set of ideologies, beliefs about the world because of how we self-identify. That's why for some, a cow is leather, for others, a deity, and for some, it's dinner. Which one is it? It's all of those things, depending on who you are and how you see the world. For some, a rug is decor, for others, a souvenir, and for some, it's a place of worship. Which one is it? All of those things, depending on who you are and how you see the world. In the States, if a black cat crossed your path, it's bad luck. In Japan, it's good luck. Which one is it? Both. Because things aren't the way they are the way that we are. That is, the way we see the world informs the way that we navigate through the world. The artifacts that we don, the behaviors that are normative, the language that we use. These are ways by which we express what we believe. For instance, where are these women going? The hats. It's an artifact, right? It's an artifact. And this is strictly for the brothers. If you pass a black man on the street, what do? That's right. You better do it. If not, you can be like, he ain't black. Nah, fam. He grew up in the suburbs. I'm kidding. Sort of. These artifacts, they become sort of the guardrails of how we identify who we are. These behaviors are ways by which we subscribe our identity to be normal, and we know them intuitively. This is a street lamp. What does it mean? To be home, right? So because of that context, you can translate this right away. Right away. Right away. That's good shorthand. That's the power of culture. Because of who we are, we see the world a certain way, and then we navigate life accordingly. The artifacts we don, the behaviors that are normative, the language that we use. And because of who we are, we abide by a set of expectations of people like us. Think about it as this rubric. I am A, we believe this, therefore I. I am a Collins, we believe family and church come first, therefore Sunday mornings I'm in the church sanctuary. People like us do something like this, is how Seth Godin puts it. But I think of it this way. There's this saying in philosophy, I think, therefore I am. In this case, it's I am, therefore I do. Demographics never get anywhere close to this because demographics only represent the veneer. They represent the hardware, the things that we can see. But what guides us, what governs us is the software, the operating system, our identity, our beliefs, and ideologies. Think of it this way. Which Alex is more committed to running? Alex, who is a Gen Z demographic, Alex who likes to run, psychographic, or Alex who is a runner? Identity. Of course. Of course. That Alex gets up and runs even if she's tired, even if they had a long day, even if it's snowing outside, that Alex gets up and runs anyway. Why? Because people like me do something like this. And because of who I am, I see the world a certain way. And because we see the world a certain way, we navigate life accordingly. Then we express ourselves through shared work. Literature, film, television, music, poetry, pottery, and brands and branded products become ways by which we peacock ourselves to the world. For instance, I grew up watching Spike Lee movies, listening to hip hop, watching The Cosby Show before we knew he was a dirtbag. You watch too, don't front. And it's because of these works that I see the world the way I do. It's because of Spike Lee movies that have a certain idea about race relations. It's because of hip hop that have a certain aesthetic of what is cool. It's because of the Huxtables that have a certain notion of what it means to be a good parent. Not because of what these things are, but because of who I am. This production, this work becomes the way by which we collectively make meaning. The way we decide what's acceptable for people like us. My wife and I used to live here in New York for almost 10 years until we had our eldest daughter, Georgia. I talk about Georgia all the time. I love her dearly. I love Ivy too, but I love Georgia a lot. So we used to have a little hatchback car that we drove here in the city because it's the city, you know. And my wife was like, look, we need to get a bigger car. We're having a kid. We weren't going to get a minivan because she didn't want you to call her a Deborah. So we decided to get an SUV. We made a long list of SUVs, like an exhaustive list of SUVs. But there was one SUV that we wouldn't even consider. Don't even put it on the list because it ain't happening. You know what SUV that was? RAV4. That's right. And why a RAV4? Kanye said, what do you think I rap for, to push a effing RAV4? And there was no way I was pulling up in front of my friend's crib in a RAV4. Ain't no way. The RAV4 is a good car. It has all the J.D. Power and Associates stuff. But there was no way in the world I was going to pull up because of what it means. Think about this for a moment. I made a $40,000 purchase decision because of a rap lyric. But it's not a rap lyric. It's cultural production. It's a way by which people like me make meaning. And that's Superman powerful stuff. Because of who we are, we see the world a certain way. And because we see the world a certain way, we navigate life accordingly. And then we express ourselves through shared work. The alchemy of these systems, or systems of systems, make up our culture. The system of conventions and expectations that demarcate who we are and govern what people like us do. Now, here's where it gets good, assuming it hasn't been good. But this is where it gets good, for you all in particular, me included, is that culture influences a consumer's social needs, which in turn is satisfied by the use and ownership of innovative products. We buy things as a way of expressing our subscriptions. We choose the brands that are in alignment with our identity. And we avoid the ones that conflict with the identity project that we set out to project based on our nationality, our ethnicity, our religion for sure, our social groups, our consumption collectives, and our corporate organizations. In fact, I would go as far as to say that consumption at its core is a cultural act. What we buy, what we wear, how we style ourselves, how you wear your hair if you have it, what you drive, the phone you use, who you date, who you marry, if you marry, where you vacation, what you eat, how you bury the dead. These things are all byproducts of our cultural subscription. You think you woke up and decided to wear that outfit? That's cute. No. There's social forces pushing on you, telling you to be normal. And therefore, you adopt to the behavior. Not because of what it is, but because of who we are. Now that might seem obvious. But the obvious isn't obvious if someone points it out to you. At least that was the case for McDonald's. You guys know McDonald's, yes? Do you know McDonald's, yes, question mark. It's just rude, I asked a question, come on, it's just rude. So I've had the fortunate pleasure of working with McDonald's for years, but most recently at White and Kennedy, where I was a chief strategy officer, right down the street actually. And McDonald's came to the agency battling a lot of hate. They say like, people hate us. We go, yeah, people definitely hate you, for sure. I mean, in fact, in 2014, McDonald's was voted the most hated company in the country. Whew. We said, yes, people definitely hate you, but 68 million people show up at your door every single day. That's a lot of love. Won't you focus on them? And they legit said, that's a good idea. We never thought about that. And we said, great, so who are those people? And they didn't know them. Think about this for a moment. They knew their credit card data, but they didn't know who these people were. So the team went out and did an ethnography. They hit the road, started in Chicago, working their way down the heartland of the country, talking to real-life human beings who self-identify as fans of McDonald's. They transcended all the demographic boundaries that we typically put on people, age, race, gender, household income, geography, but they all share the same identity because they were fans of McDonald's. And what the team saw after talking to these people were actually quite profound. That after talking to all these different people who did not know each other, they were all saying the same things. So much so that the team committed to what they call a book of fan truths. These were specific and shared things about what it means to be a fan of McDonald's. And of all the truths, there was one truth that rang louder than all of them. And it was this: no matter how big, how famous you are, everyone has an order. It's like, oh, that's profound. Because here's a brand that is as ubiquitous as anything we can think of. And all its ubiquity actually drives its democratization. So much so that everyone has an order. And it's with this insight that the team decided to celebrate fandom by celebrating orders. Let's see if this works. So we put this in the world to sort of brace for impact. Oh, I can clap, that's okay. Claps are good. So they put this in the world to sort of brace for impact because McDonald's being punched in the face for 15 years. What's one ad going to do? Well, it didn't change things, but it did enlighten us to something. It enlightened the team to the fact that people care about their fandom. And the idea was that as we put this in the world, people weren't like, I love McDonald's. Instead, they were debating people's orders with each other and actually offering up their own orders. In fact, some of the people who were highlighted in the film jumped into the conversation to defend their orders. So we said to ourselves, I think we're onto something. So the team decided to make it real. Started to partner with a real live person who was a fan of McDonald's for a long time, a gentleman by the name of Travis Scott. And the idea was that Travis Scott had an order. He had a quarter pounder with bacon, shredded lettuce, barbecue sauce, dip his fries, and Sprite. Same order he's been ordering since his time as a kid in Houston. So the team partnered with Travis Scott to make his order available through a name called the Cactus Jack. And in the first week, McDonald's broke the supply chain of quarter pounder ingredients at McDonald's. People were so ravenous about the campaign that they were stealing posters off the wall when the restaurant was closed. In the 4 weeks this campaign ran, we doubled quarter pounder sales, and increased revenue by $50 million. And then Wall Street added $10 billion to McDonald's market cap. And we go, oh yeah, we're definitely on to something. So then they partnered with J Balvin, whose famous order is a Big Mac with the Oreo McFlurry. When the machine isn't broken, it's always broken. Always broken. Always. Then they partnered with BTS, K-pop superstars. Their famous order is a 10-piece nugget. They all share the same 10-piece. That's a joke. But these guys are like rail thin skinny. He's like, oh, you ain't thinking, Lord. Then they partnered with Sweetie, Southern rapper who has a penchant for like weird concoctions of food. She kind of has like a prison palate of sorts. But we took her order and made it available. And then we partnered with Mariah Carey, who's a fan of McDonald's. Then we partnered with Cardi B and Offset before they broke up and they came back together to have a kid, which is weird, but that aside. Then we celebrated Grimace's birthday. Now dig this. For the last 4 years, McDonald's has experienced double-digit growth, quarter over quarter, year over year. None of these products are new. No new products, just framed through a cultural lens, which gives it new meaning. New meaning. And of course, all the other brands jumped in. Burger King did their version of a celebrity meal. Their food is real, as they say, and McDonald's is not. So what they decided to do was say, let's use the artist's real name as opposed to their stage name. So that's the Cornell Haynes Jr., that's the Nelly meal, which is super lame. No shade to Nelly, I like Nelly, but come on, son. Right, so it didn't work. And I tell you why it didn't work. Because they copied all of the executions without understanding the strategy. Or said differently, they copied all the tactics without understanding the cultural truths of what it means to be a fan. The entire strategy for McDonald's has been just observing the cultural characteristics of what it means to be a fan of McDonald's and engage them accordingly. We saw in the discourse, you know, someone said, man, when did you realize you had your last Happy Meal? Which is like super sad. And someone said, McDonald's should do an adult Happy Meal. Team said, say less, we got you. We saw that people were making these weird sandwich concoctions, buying multiple sandwiches, putting them together to make one sandwich. Like they'll take a Big Mac, a filet of fish, and a chicken sandwich. I call it the land, sea, and air, which is disgusting. But we're not gonna yuck their yum. We saw people were buying this en masse, so we created a menu hack. In fact, the most successful social post from McDonald's is the most simple thing you can think of. Can I get a... Why? Because that is the language of fandom. This is the McDonald's strategy. Fans engaged like fans. Fan to fan. And we take that strategy and lateralize it across the globe. Other markets, what are the famous orders there? Let's celebrate them there. 10 years ago, McDonald's was rated as the most hated brand in the country. Today, it's considered the most valuable brand on the planet. Even Wall Street Journal says McDonald's is cool again. I don't know if they have the right to say that, but we'll take it. But I guess more importantly is that McDonald's won the Effie Award last year for the most effective marketing campaign across the globe. No new products, just a cultural understanding. This is Superman powerful stuff here. And what ultimately it does is it changes the way we think about traditional marketing communications. Because here's how traditional marketing works. We have a brand, our brand sells products, and we communicate through some marcom. And it's typically value proposition driven. My razor's sharper, my battery lasts longer, my shampoo will get you laid. And the idea is people go, oh, I want to get laid, give me that shampoo. At best, we get people's attention. At best. But what gets people to move is when a brand has a point of view about the world and they activate a community of people who see the world similarly. And people not only consume from the brand, but they use the brand as a way to project their identity. And then they share it with other people. And then they share it with other people. And they share it with other people. And a network effect begins to catalyze. Not because of what it is, but because of who they are. Christakis Fowler puts it this way. It says that when a small group of people begin acting in concert displaying similar visible symptoms, the epidemic can spread along social network ties via emotional contagion, and large groups come quickly emotionally synchronized. They activate network effects. And that's a powerful thing for us to understand because we are, as Aristotle would say, social animals by nature. We come together We connect together. It's been like that since our sub-Saharan African days. It's what we're wired to do. And when we see other people like ourselves, we go, oh, what up, what up, what up, fam? What up, doe? And we immediately feel connected. The literature's been telling us this for decades. This is not new ground we're covering here. Our social groups are important to us. They tell us who we are, identity, what to think, how we cognate, how to behave, what we do. And the more we value it, the more likely we are to be influenced by it. That's the magician's trick here. We think we wake up in the morning making our own decisions, but it's not so. We don't have nearly as much agency as we think we have. We have an illusion of agency. And we wake up in the morning and make decisions based on what is normal for people like me. And as a result, we act accordingly in an effort to promote social solidarity among ourselves. This completely changes how we think about marketing communications, especially when we consider the technology we have at our disposal to help activate this network effect that propagates ideas, messages, beliefs, and behaviors into a population. Not because of what the things are, but because of who we are, our culture, and our cultural subscription. And when I think about this, when I look at this through this lens, I can't help but challenge the traditional ways by which we think about multicultural. Because the way we talk about, preach Lola, the way we talk about multicultural is this. Multicultural is everything that ain't white. All y'all. Which is essentially throwing people into a box. There is the hegemony, the power structure that controls the society in which we live, and it's the rest of y'all. And what it implies is that being white provides you the privilege of having many, many facets. You can be more than one thing. But if you're not white, you are a part of a monolith. And you see that and go, nah, fam, nah. But it's so. But we know this. We're not a monolith. There's nothing monolithic, especially about being black. There are many, 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 many cultures that exist in black culture. There's the black church, there's Nation of Islam, there are 5%ers, there's HBCU culture, there's Jack and Jill, which I don't rock with y'all, I'm kidding, but kind of. There's black Greek letter organizations, there's Afrofuturism, there's hip hop, there's Hotep, and go on and 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 on. The same thing goes when we talk about Hispanic. 21 countries represent the moniker of Hispanic. You mean to tell me they're all the same because they speak Spanish? What the hell are we talking about? That don't make no sense. It's almost like saying because all these countries speak English that we're all the same. That don't make no sense. But if culture is a system of conventions and expectations that demarcate who we are and govern what people like us do, then multicultural just means many systems. Many systems of conventions and expectations that demarcate who we are and govern what people like us do. Some of the best brands in the world have known this forever. Nike believes that every human body is an athlete. Big, small, short, tall, we're all athletes. The only thing keeping us from realizing our best athletic self is us. So what does Nike tell the world? Just do it. Who does Nike target? No, athletes. They talk to athletes, and they talk to runners one way, hoopers another way, swimmers another way, runners another, or cyclists another way, fencers, I don't know about fencing, whatever, another way. I talk to them in very bespoke ways based upon the system of conventions and expectations that demarcate who they are. But they all ladder up to a governing belief system, a congregation, if you will. And when Nike stopped doing that, they lost their way. Same thing with REI. REI believes that a life outdoors is a life well lived. And who do they talk to? The people who live their life outdoors. Hikers, bikers, canoeists, campers, everything I would never do. From the deep, we just don't do that. Patagonia believes in climate clean, mitigating our invasiveness on the planet. And they talk to all the many communities, all the many cultures that abide by that same belief system, but navigate in the world based on their own specific conventions. That's what multicultural is. Many cultures relating to many different systems. And here's the trick. Even us as individuals are made up of many cultures. We assign our identity to many different cultures. A scholar by the name of Kimberly Crenshaw coined this phrase as intersectionality. And it was first a way by which we identified power imbalance based on identity. And the idea was that because of these multiple identities that we hold inside of us, every single one of us, we therefore navigate in the world accordingly. Why? Because we see the world through these cultural lenses. And the way we see the world ultimately informs the way that we behave in the world. And think about it this way. We know these individual things as they are by themselves, right? We have a box for athletes. Oh yeah, I have cognitions, I have associations for athletes. And maybe we have a box for women, different box, but for women, yes, totally. And maybe we have another box for Muslims, definitely, totally. But what happens when we put them together in their one identity? We go, I don't know what to do with that, fam. But this intersectionality is governed by a set of conventions that inform how people see the world and how they navigate in the world. And when a brand can see that, when they can identify that, magic happens. Because they start to engage people based on their intersectionality. And you go, fam, how did you even know? How did you even see me? It looks obvious, but the obvious isn't obvious till someone points it out to you. And those who are able to see it, those are the people who win. Unfortunately, many of us are not doing it. And that's a super powerful thing for us to consider. Because we're the ones who are being subjugated by our identity not being seen. We're the ones that are being marginalized because of our intersectionality. We understand this better than most. So why aren't we leveraging this? We have a box that we put boys in. We have a separate box that we think about fashion. We have a separate box we think about disabilities. But what happens when those things come together? People feel seen. And when they feel seen, they feel connected. And isn't that what we want? Don't we want to be connected? We know that emotions are more powerful than value propositions. We know that meaningful relationships are more powerful than transactional-based relationships. Where do you think meaning lives? Culture is a meaning-making system. And our ability to see that and understand it helps us connect. And this is unbelievable, powerful stuff. This is true cultural engagement. It requires us seeing the world through the lens of people who are not us. People who operate by different cultural frames than we do. Seeing the world the way they do and operating accordingly. So how do we do this? I'm running out of time, so how do we do this? My friend Eric Holkman, he makes this analogy that I absolutely love. He describes it like a car. He says, when it comes to a car, you can drive it. You can drive the car. In the case of culture, engaging in culture, we drive the car by contributing new cultural characteristics, social facts to a given group of people, new beliefs, new language, new artifacts, new behaviors. Nike's a great example of this. Nike gave us Just Do It. That's language that was an ad that got translated into cultural production that is a part of our vernacular that we talk about things, particularly when it comes to being proactive and athletic. We think about people who lead culture, they're typically creators, typically artists, musicians, filmmakers, because they contribute new things to the discourse. But maybe you don't lead it. You ride shotgun. And these are the brands, the people who maybe don't create new language, but they engage in the discourse through a point of view that the brand has. I can think of no better example than Beats by Dre, You Love Me. Here's a brand who saw the discourse and realized that there was a point of view from a group of people who actually are at the center of the discourse, but they weren't being heard. And here's a brand that's all about being heard, that says, you know what? We're going to say things that people are saying in their group chats. We're going to say things that people are saying among their people in the dinner table, but they aren't saying out loud. We're going to say it for you. We're not going to talk to you. We're going to talk on your behalf. That's a hot take from my boy Chaucer. We're going to talk on your behalf. And people go, hell yeah, finally, someone said it. They don't run it on television. No. They run it through us. Because we communicate it as a way to communicate our own identity. So you can either drive it, you can ride shotgun, or you can suck tailpipe. And there are far too many brands sucking tailpipe. We know what that looks like. My pizza's brat. You're like, man, what are you? My shoes are very demure. You go, what are you doing? What are you doing? It was cool till you said it, now it sucks. This is what it means to engage in culture. But the brands who understand culture, the brands who lead culture, are more successful than those who follow culture. And here's why. Because these brands understand the most fundamental truth of humanity, that you have to see culture as a place to give, not a place to take. You have to see culture as a place to give, to contribute, not a place to take. When I hear people say, let's tap into culture, I go, no. Tap into culture is extraction. It's exploitative. Instead, it's how do we give? And we give through cultural production, through things that we create that are expressions of shared beliefs. Now, I've kept you all too long, so let's just wrap this puppy up. What's the point, Marcus? There is no force more influential in human behavior than culture, full stop. In fact, the oldest industries, oldest institutions in the world have known this. Religion, military, government, they understand this. But the only way for us, businesses, we are babies in this world relative to these institutions, is to start seeing the world through the lens of humanity. And that is the biggest issue that we face as an industry. W.E.B. Du Bois puts it this way: this is the tragedy of the age. Not the men are poor because we all know something about poverty. Not the men are wicked because what is good. Not the men are ignorant because what is truth. Nay, that we know so little of ourselves. We don't know us. But the better we understand us, the better our chances are engaging with us. I know that might be obvious, but I tell you, the obvious isn't obvious till someone points it out to you. And my hope today is that I've done that very thing for you. I spend my time studying culture, its influence and impact on human behavior. And my hope in our time today is that you walk out of here changed, realizing that your proximity to culture is your biggest cheat code. Use it. In fact, to help you use it, I created a chat bot called ChatMTC. It's taken all my literature, all of my work, all of the things I teach to help you make better decisions based on what we know about culture. And I'm super grateful to be with you, to be a part of this, and I hope that you go out and do things that the people before you could never do, because that's what the obligation is for you being here. Thank you so much.